All right, I'm going to say it again without the mute on. There we go, guys. There's your fourth divergence from resistance with the trend change. Pretty cool, right? Hey, what's going on, Mike? And we'll see what happens with that one. Thala, let's see what you had going on in crude oil. Smaller away from the large triggers. Potential area for entry. For a long or for a short, Thala? And do you notice how you didn't write one rule on the chart? Okay, for a long. You have a termination condition. I like it. Small's above the large. I like it. The only thing this is really missing right now is those trigger lines to roll, right? To get those favorable trigger lines. It's a good look for a bottom, absolutely. But the odds are favorable that that market's going to pull back and close that gap to the large triggers, right? The same thing that we saw up here, which means that this mid-band is, let me see how the ticks work on this one. This mid-band, these large triggers are 15 ticks back, 15 ticks below the mid-band. Does that make sense? That big gap, let me know if it closes that gap. That's that gap theory once again, guys. And it stinks, doesn't it, when the market moves without you? When it moves and you're like, there's just not a trade to be had. Termination condition, this is the one that you avoided, right? Good thing you did. It didn't work. And it hits that mid-band, comes and retests. The synthymine is far from the large triggers. Yeah, see how they're split? So this is kind of a two-part process. You're having a few bad days but surviving, Mike. I think everybody, it's been a rough couple days. It really has. So Thala, this gap between price and the large triggers says that this long may not work so well because price may close that gap to the synthetic triggers. Does that make sense? It's that gap theory. It makes this a much lower probability long up here because of that space between the two. No, you should take it from an area inside of favorable large triggers when the rules are met. Mike, that's not a bad day. A lot of people would be pretty happy with $5 grand, wouldn't they? Uh-oh. Yeah. That's okay, though. Right? Guys, everybody has rough days, right? Mike's been with us for almost 10 years now, I think. Has it been 10 years? Has a plan in place, knows what he's doing, understands his odds of survival every time he takes a trade. Look at that, guys. Big termination, full reversal. Recognize the 50-50 look? Smalls are down, large are up. You see how the synthetic and the large are one on top of the other? Guys, your window of opportunity is literally that big. Is it rules-based? Let me find my checklist. Does anyone else have 3,800 pictures? You should one day. Keep striving for that number. Here we go. You have no idea. Guys, I'm going to put that same checklist that I gave you onto the chart. Did we have a termination condition that created a full reversal? Do you guys remember all those divergences at the top? That's a yes. Odds favorable? Yes. No termination conditions on the 13-2? It's a 50-50. We have to recognize that. Area for entry inside of favorable large triggers? Yes. Guys, this is a medium probability trade. And it hasn't made it back to the area yet. But you can run through that process each and every time when you think it's time to take a trade. There's crude. They broke out of their range, didn't they? And they did it to the short side. Remember when I told you? If it ends up working, if you take that shot and it ends up working, it's probably going to work big. Well, it did. But that shot didn't work 7 times before, guys. How much money are you going to give away while you wait for it to break out of a range? Now we have a termination condition, multiple divergences. There's a lot of waiting that goes on. There's a lot of being patient, waiting for the market to give you those advantages. Guys, what do you want to talk about? It takes 30 seconds to talk about what we see on the indicators, doesn't it? Let's open up a 13-2. Price reaches support. No trigger lines break through, guys. Termination condition, yes? Large triggers a full bar away. It just adds to the fact that this market probably isn't turning down. Scroll back. What do we see? What do we see? Odds favorable. There's one of those tails. Market continues up. The beginning of odds favorable, clear path. There's one of those tails. Market continues up. Price accelerates. Large triggers a full bar away. It closes the gap. Do you guys ever do this? Odds favorable, goes up. You ever just go through and just say, hey, this is a termination condition. Hey, there's one of those tails that was probably a winner. There's another one of those tails. Both of these were probably winners. There's another one. There's another one. Whoop, there's a termination condition. Large triggers didn't follow. Look how price continues back up. And then there's that huge grind up, guys. And there was your opportunity to get in it. Of course, you probably wouldn't hold that long. Guys, you can scroll through. You can scroll back 10 days on your 13-2. Didn't quite get an entry, did we? It's all about the process. This is going to be a long class today. Everybody's quiet. You guys are being patient. Nobody's showing me pictures. Does that mean you're not taking trades, or does that mean you're taking every trade and you just don't want to show me what you've been doing? We took that picture earlier, didn't we? That was our S&P. What we said was likely to happen because of the termination conditions. And that's what happened. Creating expectations, guys, based on repetition. Where's your window of opportunity? From 75.87 up to 77, right? So from 76 to 77, it's your lowest area of resistance inside of favorable large triggers. This is your highest point of resistance inside of favorable large triggers. Safia, did you go through this whole process? I'm doing this every morning. John and I were talking yesterday again because my computer's not as big and strong as his. I've got a gaming computer, middle of the road, and it seems to be pretty good. But I can tell you guys that I'm running solid. I'm doing okay on NinjaTrader 8 so far. That's what we're watching today. Things that I've noticed, and maybe you haven't, but we can talk about this because there's not much else. Z helped you out? Oh, nice. Hey, Ziba. One thing that I tend to not do, guys, is I don't draw on my charts. I use Snagit. I use Capture. And this seems to help because I don't have a graphics card to support all of it. I really don't. Doesn't seem to be any of the NTT file. And see, DL070, I have no idea what an NTT file is. So I've been going through what John says to do. I'm trying not to draw on my charts. All right, let's see what we have. Thala, you took the long anyway, right? Right in that vacuum? And it did exactly what anticipated. Yeah, what a great lesson. Okay, thanks, DL. What a great lesson, isn't it? You tried to go long, and then you tried it again without the rules met. Didn't work a second time. And then you come down to this 50-50 look. The smalls are through, but the large are not. And I love your entry here. And that one just doesn't work out. Do you see the difference, Thala? This one, all day, every day. Smalls below, large below. It's a 50-50 there. Yeah, because they were just, you did. I'd get stopped out of this one every time, Thala. I like that look. Every chart agrees. The key is going to be to eliminate these two. Well, it's a 50-50, right? Can't we say it's rules met? And I think that that's what you have to focus on. The smalls are below the large. There's space between the two. What a great look. But we're 50-50 on that pivot stop out. You have no divergence. You have strong triggers. You take the perfect entry. This medium probability trade doesn't work, Thala, but you executed it perfectly. And I think that, guys, you have to remember to celebrate the victories when they come about. And I want you guys all to reflect on this. When you stop expecting to win every trade, because you're not going to win every trade, guys. Just go ahead and get that in your brain. You're not going to win every trade. When you stop caring about the result and you start caring about the execution, that's when you're on your way. So Thala, when you take this trade and you say, I followed every rule, and every rule says that this is a trade that wins more than it loses, then you're celebrating execution. But you have to be honest with yourself about it too. You knew that this was a 50-50, right? So it's a little lower probability. And that great entry and your stop is appropriate and there's no divergence. Your one issue was the 50-50, but you had a picture-perfect entry on the 5-1. All day, every day, Thala. I think you did a great job on that one. Small's below the large. The large are wide. They're angled in the direction of the trend. Your window of opportunity extends from 76 to 76.50. Smalls are still outside. Claire, I believe John's using 5. I believe John is using 5. Five would be not 10. Absolutely. Are we talking about 7 or 8? Days back. Watch this, guys. Termination, full reversal. Does everyone see that it's a 50-50 trade? We've had a couple divergences. If I enter the market right here, right at that area of resistance inside of favorable large triggers, my stop goes where the market shouldn't. And I know that this is a medium probability trade. I know that this is a trade that doesn't typically win 70 to 80% of the time, right? So I'm not worried about anything, and I'm going to close out because I want you guys to see one thing. The only thing that I'm concerned about for my first 20 days is being able to get in at the correct area. Being able to take that best of the best entry that creates manageable trades. Does that make sense? Having the trust in the methodology, seeing it. Guys, I want you to show me 1,000 losers with perfect entries. And you probably won't get to 1,000 in your lifetime. But show me those perfect entries because, Thala, if you can find this perfect entry when the conditions aren't completely ideal, aren't you going to be able to find them when everything is ideal? I think so. 50-50 trade. 2 divergences, guys. What does that tell us? 2 divergences, 2 losses of momentum. So now we've gone from perfectly ideal 50-50 trade, no divergence, strong triggers, to what do the problems become? We have an area that hasn't broken, so we don't have a clear path. And then we also had 2 losses of momentum. You can wait for a signal. All right, Abdul, looking for a high volume area trade. Termination condition. Triggers roll. You're looking for the pullback to the area. Let's see if patterns repeat themselves. Oop, you get it. And then that divergence prints, and you make a little money. Nice job. The only challenge with this trade, Abdul, is you'd already reached the mid-band. You got out after divergence and the trigger line's inside? I like it. I like that you took quick profits at the mid-band. It kind of says, oh, but look, you used that lesson right at the HVA, right? Beautiful. So once you get to that HVA, you come up to the one-to-ones, divergence prints. Yeah, get out of that trade. I think you did it perfectly. Your target was reached, but you had the advantage. You had everything saying go. That reversal bar gives you a little warm fuzzy on it. And high volume area trades aren't necessarily home run trades. They're just to get you to that first trouble spot, taking advantage of a termination condition. Nice trade. Great chart read, right? Good look, 3 or 4 triggers. 3 of the 4 triggers are cutting above support. The 2 previous divergences make you nervous. Perfect entry. Got the $100. Break even. Oh, it just didn't fill. Yeah, and what you have here, Adam, we talked about it this morning too. It's just a range-bound market, isn't it? Can I give you another way to look at this? Because there's 2 ways. Awesome. Have fun with that, Mike. You too. So, Adam, 3 of the 4 triggers got above, right? And you're like, heck yeah, let's go long because you're bored. What about every trigger is below? Sometimes we miss that in the moment. You notice how even though the triggers are breaking above support, not one trigger line has made it above that pivot stop out yet. So technically, it's a termination condition. And that's such a common thing that I actually printed a picture of it. These are the 2 most common areas that are forgotten when termination conditions are being discussed. Fibs, of course, are great. But guys, anytime the market has a divergence high or low, that line represents a specific point in the market where not only could the in-control force, buyers or sellers, not push it any farther in the direction, but they also lost momentum there. And it's kind of like a line in the sand. And often they'll try to exceed it again. And this is why it's in the termination condition. Because it's a key area. Where's our picture? Where it's already failed. Here it's already failed twice. So no triggers through with the 3rd run, Adam. While you were breaking above 68, everything was below. Does that make sense? Just a little observation. You gave away the advantage of a clear path in what was ultimately a range-bound market. You're very welcome. Thanks for posting. Joel, how come you're not using any fibs? It's clean looking. Odds favorable, termination. 2 divergences. Inside of large triggers. Yep, it definitely was. And then your stop is outside of that window. Joel, did you take your fibs off so you wouldn't worry about whether or not it was 50-50? Just looking, because the entry is perfect. And then Paul, once again, that range-bound market. You take the 50-50. It gets you. I think it's the right trade, isn't it? If you're going to take that 50-50, that's the right trade. Then Tony, let's see what you're doing. 3 trades in a tight range. 2 with longs at support inside of favorable large triggers. 1 on the slingshot using the orange line from the bottom of the range earlier. Started with some losers, but shook them off. So went long with all the triggers down. Nope, that was an exit from a short. And then you went long and you got your target. And then it hits this area and you go short. And hit your target. Trading that gap. And then you go long. Man, that's busy, Tony. Nice job. Nice job. You had a plan. You knew what you were looking for. And you didn't get greedy, and I think that's the key. If you're going to be aggressive and break rules and trade vacuums, don't be greedy. All right, Thala. So you're saying with a termination condition, an odds favorable momentum, you let it close the gap, and then everything's still set up. So you go long at the area of support when things begin to roll. Quick profits. Thala, I think that's great patience. And look how it pulls right back to those triggers. Isn't that amazing? Over and over. Nice job, Thala. Good read. And then Paul, 50-50, couple divergences. You went for the 50-50 trade. Just didn't work out, did it? Man, that is a great shot at a medium probability trade with a perfect entry. I may not have kept that much risk on it, but that's just me. Nice job, Paul. Good read. I'm okay taking them tight. I took a 50-50 yesterday, and I don't know if I have the picture of it, but I took a trade and it got run over, and it happens. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay getting run over every now and then. But what I did, and I'm not sure if I have the picture, I take a million pictures, is my window of opportunity was right here. And my stop was right here, and I was talking with my brother, and he's like, why do you have your stop so tight, Mark? And I said, because if the market goes up here to 78, 78.50, well, then it's way outside of that window. This isn't a trade. I'd rather take a small loser and look for a second entry than take a full loser and just watch it run against me. Does that make sense? And when we talk about it from the manual, and we're looking at those entry rules, protective stop will go below the window of opportunity, right? Below the 1-to-1s, below the large trigger. And I know that we start at 12 ticks. Guys, we're starting at 12 ticks, not because 12 ticks is the magic number. It's because 12 ticks gives me time to react. 12 ticks gives me enough time to move that stop above or below the window of opportunity. Does that make sense, Paul? Nice, Joel. Joel, are you using the workspace that John put? Are you using the new installer? Well, it looks like you've got synthetics. I think you're good. You're missing a lot, though. Cool. 50-50 doesn't work. Market starts pushing back up. And now you're 50-50 to the other direction, aren't you? Smalls are through, large are not. Window of opportunity lays somewhere right in here. No divergence is printed. That's a step in the right direction, isn't it? Jason's amazing, isn't he? Look at that, guys. Termination, creating a full reversal. Gap theory told us, don't try that momentum style, right? I'm not sure, Joel. So that's your S&P, right? I see a 13.2 fib, and I believe this is a 5.1, 72.45. It's hard to tell. But what I don't see on yours are the 21.3 fibs. So this is my ES. I've got 5.1 synthetics on there. I've got a 21 synthetic. Ooh, that was a quick push, wasn't it? Right to an area of support inside of favorable large triggers. 50-50 trade, guys. No divergence. Should we try that medium probability trade? Paul, here's my window. That's outside my window, isn't it? But probably better off outside of those large triggers just in case. Medium probability. Guys, give me a Y in the room if you see it. I do have strong triggers, but I have 1, 2 areas with the potential to break but haven't broken. And I don't have a termination condition causing it. But do you see how the area is easy to recognize? It's easy to find that window of opportunity, but not a high probability trend trade. Give me a Y in the room if you see that. Not a high probability trend trade. Not a good termination condition creating a full reversal. Guys, that makes a difference. 2 areas with the potential to break but haven't broken. That makes a difference. How many advantages are you willing to give away and still take the trade? Did you? This is a pretty big move right here, not coming from that key area. It pulls all the way back to the bottom of those synthetic triggers. Still no divergence, right? See how my stop went where the market shouldn't? This still may end up losing. It's a 50-50 trade. Stop stays outside of those large triggers, outside of those synthetics, giving it room to work. You got in too early. Where did you get in? And guys, I'm not worried about anything as a brand new user other than the perfect entry, right? Not worried about anything other than the perfect entry. Thala, you tell me your view on it. Right on that chart. Tell me your view. My view means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing to your trading. You have to be able to do it. 7303, I've got a native fib from the 13.2. Adam P. Same trade you took yesterday. You moved to break even +1 instead of being patient. Are your rules met, Thala? There should be no debate. Either your rules are met or they're not, right? Either your rules have been met or they haven't. Were your rules met? Did you have strong triggers? Did you have smalls through the area? Did you have an area of support inside of favorable large triggers? Did you have a stop outside of that window of opportunity? Are we expecting to win 70 to 80% of these? No. It's already given me a reversal bar. My stop's appropriate, isn't it? We're just letting it play out, guys. All we're doing is following rules. What happens if I get a divergence from this area that hasn't broken? Shouldn't I manage assertively? Well, there's my first target. Watch this. I'll just go break even. What do you think, guys? I have a target at my second trouble spot. And I'll tell you what. I'll put my second target up here at that divergence high. Let's see if they want to retest it. Got $100 in the bank. I have absolutely no risk. My stop is still behind the window of opportunity. Okay, trade your charts. I don't have 4082 either. I have 8150. This is a synthetic, so Thala, you should be running the newest workspaces. This is a 21.3 fib. Smalls are still above the large. Large are still wide. They're still angled up. Smalls are inside. I don't have a ton of momentum on my 5-1, but my large are up. My synthetic are up. Now my small are up. I'm using Fibonacci to create a target. I've already taken profits on one. Make it so you guys can see it. If this divergence prints, that's okay, D. Let it be. Was it red when I entered? Safia, how could I not be? I took an area inside of favorable large triggers. My stop was beyond the large trigger at the time of entry. I don't know. I can't see yours, Thala. I took profits at $100 on the first one. I moved my stop to break even. My second profit target is $200. What changed from the time of entry? Anything, guys? I still have the same look on the 13.2. I still have the potential area to break, right? Everything says that the market should go up. If divergence prints, oh, look at that. We got tapped but not filled. There we go. So there's our second profit target. So now I'll move my stop. Let's go 2 ticks below a reversal bar. If divergence prints, it'll take me out. Guys, are you following what I'm doing here? I'm using the 13.2 to guide the trade. I'm using the 13.2 to tell me to look for an entry. Nothing changed on the 13.2. I never got a divergence on the 5-1. I hit buy market, Safia. But I still put my stop where it should go. I had 3 orders, so I've already taken profits on 2. If divergence prints from resistance that hasn't broken, now my smalls are below it, right, guys? I'm giving that runner a chance to run. But if divergence prints on my 5-1, I have a plan of escape. If it never prints, if the market continues up, well, I'm looking for that divergence high. But now my smalls are below as well, right? It may break, but I'm not going to risk everything that I have counting on it. But guys, ask yourself, what changed from the time of entry? Divergence didn't print. 13.2 still said up, right? Nothing changed at all, did it? Hit fibs, and that's what I just said, John. This is the first change that we saw, which is why if divergence prints from the area with the trigger lines below, I had my stop in a place where it pulls me out, but I might get lucky on this one. But that's the first change, isn't it? And that first change didn't happen until the second profit target was reached. And that's my runner. Let it go. Yep, Thala, you don't have the same fibs as me. Yeah, Claire, we were just waiting for you to leave so we could put those in. You want to see something kind of cool on the runner, guys? Is I still really have smalls above the large. I still have the large wide and angled up, right? Still had an area inside of those synthetics. And now we're coming up to retest that area. We'll see if it works. But great entries, guys. And Safia, my entry was about 3 ticks below where it should have been. But I've already got $300 in the bank, right? And I can't do any worse than another 1.25. Smalls are below resistance. Divergence is printed. We expected that stop loss, didn't we? Y'all's job is to find that great entry and to make good things happen with it. All right, Safia. So Safia, when you got in, I like your entry. I don't think you got in too early at all. But when you got in at, where were you in? 81.50, 78.50 was right there at the bottom of the large triggers, right? So your stop was still inside of the large triggers when you got into that one. I know because I almost put mine there and I said, well, you know what? The manual says, do you guys remember that conversation? Protective stop goes below the large triggers because it can close that gap on them. That's what kept me safe. Is that at that time of entry, my large triggers were right here, which meant that I had to put a little more risk on it. And the fact that I got in later, Safia, because we were talking about it, and now we're in that little thing. Don't be jealous. Ronald, I read my indicators. So let's go back to ES then. And I know that sounds silly, but let me take a picture. Are you asking why would I take it? Because it hit resistance here? I just want to make sure that we're on the same path of thought. On the runner? Well, Ronald, on the runner, I already had $300 in the bank, and I couldn't do worse than another $50 on the runner. That's what the runner's for, right? Does that make sense, Ron? I've already taken profits all the way up to my trouble area. Now I've got one less where I say if divergence prints, I'm getting out of it. Why would I get out of it? Well, because now my small triggers are below the area. It's no longer a 50-50. That 50-50's turned into a termination condition. What happened here is all of this momentum gave me just enough for a retest. It started with 3, Safia. I just clicked the first ATM strategy that I saw. Does that make sense, Ron? Because I got in at the best of the best spot, and because of this momentum, it gave me a retest up to the trouble spot. When I got there, my small triggers were below it. So if we're doing textbook termination conditions, price reaches an area, absolutely no trigger lines are above it. D, that should answer your question. Now there's no clear path. I've already bounced off that place. I'll give it a little bit, and the reality is, Ronald, is when I came up and retested it, the smalls were already below. I probably would have taken both contracts, but we're in a class, this is simulator. I don't care if it wins or loses. What I want is for you guys to be able to recognize your window of opportunity, being able to recognize that your stop goes beyond that window. Even if it's more than 12 ticks, you have to determine whether or not you're going to do it. Jason and Tech will get you 100% squared away. If you scroll down to tech support, let me give you the link to it. And guys, I'm not deflecting questions on tech stuff. I'm not good at it. And it kills me to say that. But I'm not a tech guy by any means. So if you're having any challenges with the software, Jason has seen every challenge and has probably worked through every answer. But Ronald, did that answer your question? Why did I stay in? I shouldn't have. But because it was the potential runner, because all my trigger lines had gone up, I was willing to lose a little bit for the sake of a lesson. But if it were my money, the second we hit this resistance again and the trigger lines aren't above it, I'm going to take the money and I'm going to wait for the area to break. And now we're in limbo, right? It may continue up, but I had all the information I need to take the exit, get the profits, and wait for the next best. Whoop. All right, Abdul. Pre-trend trade long. Strong trending market. Area of support inside of favorable large triggers. Kind of giving up the advantage of momentum. Pushes up. Profits at the first trouble spot. Next divergence prints. And you're out break even. I think break even might have been excessive on that one, Abdul. Look at your trigger lines on the 5-1 when that divergence prints. Do you see them? Anything can happen, right? Man, if I still had a ton of momentum, that's a game changer. But now what you have is 2 losses of momentum, and you've got smalls below the large, and you've got smalls inside. This tells me that we're probably going to push down and retest just a little bit lower. Great trade, though. And pretty soon you'll turn that break even into an extra point or two. And then Adam, absolutely same lesson, right? We're in a strong trending market for sure. And it comes back and it tests support, likely to hold. And your entries are great, guys. Profits at the first trouble spot. I think the only thing that could have been better on this one is when you get that second divergence and the small triggers are doing anything but helping, don't give it up, break even. You know, it's okay to get out when it prints and wait and see if there's another opportunity. And I think that we get so excited. And when I say we, I think you guys, I think I get so excited sometimes about the prospect of hitting a home run. Man, if this goes, I'm going to make $1,000. If this goes, I'm going to be rich. I'm telling you guys, if you take 3 $200 trades, it's $600. If you take one $600 trade, it's $600. One of those is easier to capture consistently. So, something to think about there. And guys, management's the second half to what you do.